Hello, friends and fans. The events in the last few days, I just couldn't handle it. Fox made, like they say in England, they made. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't help it. I'm gonna have to make comments on it. So they keep telling you about Biden and memory. Man, the guy is 80 some years old, and when you have memory lapses about names and stuff, doesn't mean a thing, right? Whatever he is, like I said before, pound for pound, he and Trump. The guy has sharper memory, like about 1,000 times sharper than that of Trump, right? Uh, and and we all do that. We all do that in school when we were young, and so on and so forth. Nonetheless, he doesn't go meet with CEOs and meander about, talk gibberish or jabbering about. He doesn't know about. For me, Trump is the show about nothing, right? Blah 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 blah. Right? The guy is more like a joker. I say instead of doing that show on TV that he did before, he now goes like and be a sidekick for one of those funny shows, right? Remember Carson? He had like someone sat next to him all the time, helped him, introduced him. And so I think he should assume that role now. So they keep talking about Hunter Biden. Hunter. Maybe now I'm going senile myself, right? Hunter. I was thinking that it was Joe Biden that is the president, not someone called Hunter. So why are they making a big deal out of it? Okay, the guy had gun charges. Who doesn't have a gun in this country, right? Well, I don't have one. But who doesn't have a gun in this country? Who doesn't have, blah, 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 blah. So what's the big deal about Hunter? Why are they talking about him, man? Why are they dissecting the president's family, right? And nobody talks about, the Trump and kids and what they've done and their wives and their children. Leave the man alone, dudes. If you want to really be objective and have a good subject to talk about the president, not his son. Damn it, what does that mean? That means you don't have much to say about Biden, that you're talking about his son. And what? Oh, he had like a gun charge or whatever it is. Yeah, okay. May all of us have some kind of gun charge, right? One thing troubles me about the GOP or the MAGAs, right? You hear them after January 6th, many of them dropped him, the senators, and they even criticized him right out in the open, with some real descriptive language and so on. But then they come and change their mind. Like, for example, Nikki Haley, said something pretty bad about him, that she would never vote for him or have, she was really etched, her position toward him was etched in stone, that she doesn't want him to become a president, and so on and so on and so forth, right? Suddenly she comes to want to vote for him. Or Romney, who in 2016 described him as a fraud, and then once he falsely or with rigged vote went into the White House, right? In 2016, he apologized, right? And then now he comes out and he says he's not going to vote for him, character counts and so on. Suddenly he wants the president to pardon him. Why, you dumb shit? It tells you there's like that kind of a cult. There's these guys, the senators that are surrounding Trump and his legal guardians, right? The Mueller, the Jack Smith, the Garland, and according to some people, this guy should be in jail altogether already, right? For what he's done. I remember when he was on the airplane and he perjured himself, right? And people get jailed for that, right? And there's like heavy-handed protection about him. So what is that really makes those people change their mind? That's the sign of tyranny, folks. You find that in Syria, you find that in Soviet Union and Putin and here and there. Doesn't that ring a bell that these guys, when they change their mind and they're exacerbated and they're upset with the gaffes and the idiocy of this Trump, and suddenly they speak out against him, and then they just come back and change their mind? You Americans, can't you see that? Don't you? Aren't you that concerned about this very obvious cult that is among those MAGAs? That there's something that is horrific, that is scaring them, frightening them. They're like a conspiracy, I swear. I mean, it's like those books that you read about totalitarianism and so on, anecdotes about and you know, like in 1984, when I think, was it the neighbor, when he said something about his daughters or his children giving him up, and he goes and he gets arrested, and it's just weird, man. I mean, you Americans should wake up to that fact. There is something totalitarianist. There's something frightening. There's something awful in that MAGA thing. You know, for those big figures, those you know, like high ranks, senators and congressmen, and Large Marge and Pee Wee Herman in the Congress, right? Right. You know, there's something frightening them. There's something awful, and you know, this is like as if there's like a real UFO or non-earthly entity that is controlling them, and they're like in total fear or afraid for some bad consequences or so on and so forth. It's just beyond me, folks. I mean, can't you see that? What do you think if this MAGA takes over again? Huh? What do you think? The White House. Believe me, January 6th was a blessing in disguise for America, because that pirate ship of Putin sank on that day before it made it to the next term. Right? And that's when they were going to convert the United States into a Stalinist and Leninist and Putinist and Mao Zedong and Assad and Ataturk, you know, and Robert Mugabe. Emperor Dilasi state, right? I mean, I'm laughing, but this is no laughing matter, folks. There is a heavy-handed control in the MAGAs, among the MAGAs, right? And that heavy-handed control is not threatening, right? Is not threatening. Excuse me. Is not threatening them with some real, with some consequences that are bearable. Let's put it this way: these guys, from what I am seeing, is they're afraid for their own lives, right? So, apparently, Putin has some machine here that is really handing control over, right? So something is wrong, right? Something is wrong there. All right. So, like I said, there is a whole lot of commotions and acts and works and to surround the campaign of Joe Biden. They don't want Joe Biden to continue. Do you remember when I remember the same thing during the Obama time? You know, there's this invisible entity that's like a humongous machine, international, tremendous, humongous machine that wanted Obama in the White House, no matter what. And I remember I used to overhear people talking about, like, one particular person said he wanted to have, he would rather see OBL, you know, that terrorist, that fuck terrorist, right? The one who's still alive, right? In the White House, rather than see who was running against Obama? Rami or Bush or something, I don't know. Yeah, so that's how it was. He said he would rather, and that's like one of those your typical biblical figures, right? You know, with missing the long hair and, you know, like braids and stuff like that. I swear to God, I heard it myself, right? Yeah. So he was in a heated discussion, is why he said what he said, right? That and suddenly the guy exits from a total calm into like total anger in like a fraction of a second, maybe millisecond, and makes that statement, right? So So there's plenty of action going on, and that's to exacerbate the campaign, Biden's campaign, and that's like Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, HAMAS. You know HAMAS. You know those founders and leaders of HAMAS. They wear big black jackets and white shirts. You know why they do that, right? They just need that brimmed hat and you know those. Ladder, you know, like or whatever it is, you know, like, you know what I'm talking about, right? There is trying to put so much pressure, right, and trying to convey to the Americans, right, who really not so much into details and trying to figure out things from the root, right? Root cause. They don't do root cause analysis of things, right? Of events and so on. They just accept them as they are from the TV, from the internet, and so on and so forth, right? And there is like an overwhelming amount of that misinformation and to actually against Biden, against Joe Biden, and they're trying to exacerbate him by wars, by whatever, right? Reason I'm saying this is they're willing to do anything. Now let me tell you something. Most of the Americans, most of the Arab Americans are pro-regimes. Like for example, in Dearborn, right? Right. That's all Shiites, right? Shiitas. Shitas. That's like Shiitas, right? Schism. It comes from Shiism. That's where the word schism comes from, right? Schism, right? They always claim that Trump against Iran, and he killed supposedly with a lie, right? 2018 killed Qasem Soleimani, right? When Qasem Soleimani was killed in Aleppo in 2016, remember, right? And yet you see all those people for Trump now. Remember that, what's his name, doctor or whatever it is in Ramadan, the one who walked out on Biden during the breakfast, right? Ramadan breaking the fast feast, which is a tradition in the White House, right? And that guy is for Trump. And Trump is what? Trump is supposedly fighting against Iran, is killing Qasem Soleimani, is helping Israel, giving them the Golan Heights, and not that is going to last forever. Oh no, no, right? But that's who they are, right? That's who they are. What does that tell you, right? What does that tell you? So believe me, folks. Like I said, I mean, Biden is not my favorite president or my favorite human being or. But right now, for you Americans, that's the only choice to continue as the United States. And I told you, I have looked at the man first. He does seem to love the United States from his statements, from his action, and his spontaneous statements, right? Two, I don't think he's going to break down the Constitution and turn it into a tyranny right away. Although it's not as good. He's still helping those investors and money, you know, electric chair, you know, he's got that. There's that spoiled brat, right? The muskrat, you know, like, I don't know why they give money in the first place. What did Ralph Nader say about him? That's like the royal retirement fund or shit like that. Billions, huh? Billions. Look at the people sitting here in African American neighborhoods or Native Americans or whoever they are, whites, even whites, you know, like, well, the way I see it, the majority of whites now are not doing well at all. Huh? They're finding it hard to make ends meet. Let's put it this way. So that's why don't buy all that wars. And it seems like Joe is smart. You know, he's not getting involved into those diversionary conflicts in the world, right? And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. You know, but you know, Joe, looks like you're going in for next term. I would clear certain neighbor here. Make sure that's right. It's a sad reality how people live in that little island, right, near Florida, right? I dare not name it, right? If I was you, I would do what Ronald Reagan did. But Ronald Reagan did when he invaded Grenada. That was a show, right? It was for campaign. It was like projecting military force and so on, and when he bombed Libya and killed Gaddafi's daughter, right? He had like an adopted daughter that got killed in the raid and so on, and the guy was like, I don't want to say much about him, but I think you get the message, Joby. There's a place here. There's a nest of rats right not far from the U.S. coast here. You need to clear that. Trust me, you know, about like 800,000 soldiers and airborne and amphibious landing, and that will be history. Get it, Joby? All right, so that's that. Let's see, I made some points, right? So the heavy-handed control, man, is among the MAGAs is a foreboding omen. It's a bad notion, folks. It's an alarming thing. You know how they're heavily controlled, and one day they slip and say something. They get like upset with Trump, and they get tired of him talking the way he does and what he does. And the guy is a fucking idiot, right? That's what Rex Tillerson said about him. He's a fucking moron, right? And that's what others said about him. And now the CEOs are talking about him like, you know, what is this guy talking about? But the investors, I guess, don't care about the United States so long this guy comes in and destroys it and takes trillions and give it to them. That's all there is to it. These are the Netanyahu investors and the Putin's investors, right? And the Xi Jinping or Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping, I heard that he was offended, so I should really announce it for what it is. Xi Jinping, right? Jumping. Or is it Xi Jinping? Bing, Xi Jinping, bang, bang, bang. So that's heavy-handed control, folks. I don't know. If you're an American and see how there's like this heavy-handed control among MAGAs, sometimes I wonder if they all want to say what they want to say. I made a video, I think, or wrote something on the net, on my account, right? Telling them if there's a time to escape the grip, heavy-handed control, or the grip of Putin, this is it, folks. This is the time. You know, you just leave. All right. So we hear rumors about MBS MIPS. You know, that guy with, wearing like something like this, see, like this, right? Something like this with the black round thing. Well, you know, I come from that. I have heritage from there as well. You know, the Y chromosome and so on. So I am one of those. He is not. Biden knows that. Trump knows that too. But he's a friend of Trump. Well, why did I bring him up? He is going BRICS. You know, rumors have it that he's going BRICS. Whatever he does with BRICS will be lost, right? That's lost for him. Right now, for the foreseeable future, I can tell you this. China has no future, right? And I'm just being hypothetical here. I'm just speculating, right? If it's too early for China to show, right now, the way I see it, it's in a dark void and moving backward. Why? Because it's just too large. It just can't move anymore, right? So when they win, and they did that one time, they win big, right? They did that one time. It just doesn't happen again. Why? Because they're big, humongous. You know, if the effect of their gains and losses, it's like worldwide phenomenon, right? That's what the Netanyahu's wanted, right? They transferred the Europe and the United States, the essence of these two continents, into China. And I coined the term way back, that's the world factory, right? Well, that comes with problems, dumb asses. So that's too early. For the foreseeable future, it's your dollar, and it's your next to it is your euro. I don't see anything else really. So MIPS, if MIPS goes yuan, all that yuan is going to be burned. Hey, MIPS, you can do, you can cook some, you can use it like charcoal and cook some food on it, right? I wouldn't buy yuans for not even for a penny, right? I wouldn't buy 1,000,000 yuan for a penny. Not now, not ever, right? For the foreseeable, like I said, for the foreseeable future, is if the war continues as is, right? It is the dollar, and it's of course gold, and so on, but that never changes. But dollar and next to it is euro. That's all I see, right? There's some. I have a scenario and speculation to make about certain things, but it does appear to be true. Here is a fact leading to the main theme or the main point. Putin knew he wasn't going to take over Ukraine by himself, right? He knew that war was not going to be won. Well, the war was lost, and he really didn't win any battles. Except at the initial surge or initial momentum, where he took like some territory here and there in the southwest, right? To the degree that Ukraine came and evicted him from Kharkiv, right? Kharkiv or Kharkiv, right? Kharkiv. The KH is a Kharkiv, right? But then I am on record saying that he was waiting for Trump to come back into the White House. In fact, the agreement was, or the as dictated to Trump and those MAGAs here by, those MAGAs by, and Lars Mars and Pee Wee Herman too, by Putin and company and Netanyahu above them, right? Is that he enters Ukraine, right? He enters Ukraine, and then Trump. It's like a shuttle, right? Or like a vice, right? It's like a vice. That was the plan. No? I can ask them. They will lie, of course. They will not say anything. The plan was this: Putin invades Eastern Europe and Northwestern Europe, right? I don't know if France was included, but Spain was probably not included. France and Spain and Italy may not have been included. I don't know. But I am certain that the Germanic and Scandinavian region, as well as those Eastern European countries, such as the Baltics, such as Poland, that was part of the plan. So he was going to come like a vice, right? Like a vice, right? Those vice, industrial vices. And they were going to crush Europe. And then Trump comes from the east, right? Along with Johnson and what's his name? Schulz, right? Hey, Schulz. There's that cheese, I remember. When I was in Syria, we call it Mushallala, Schulz. I don't know, maybe they're not close to that. Maybe they're not similar in pronunciation. Shul. So Shul or Shulla, the Arabic word is Shulla or Thulla, which is really came into the West as school, right? Or school of fish, for example, Shulla. ثُلَّةٌ مِّنَ الْأَوَّلِينَ وَثُلَّةٌ مِّنَ الْآخِرِينَ. So the word Shulla or school, Thulla is the word which is school or a group of people. So Shulla. All right. So, but now something has happened, right? This Cuba thing, right? He sent like nuclear powered warships to Cuba. That's like big fart, man. I mean, to me, it sounds like, heck, you couldn't even do anything in Ukraine. Now you're going to come here as far as next to the United States and Cuba and shit. You know what the United States can do to Cuba. I don't know why they haven't. I just talked about that in this video, right? So that's like I said, it's like a big fart, typical of Putin. Putin is a big fart, right? He's a small puppy dog, poodle. He only takes it out on unarmed civilians and cities. That's his specialty, folks. And he's a fucking coward. Why? Because when Prigozhin supposedly made his way back to Moscow, your hero, Putin, got onto an airplane and went to St. Petersburg, right? Stalingrad. Why would he run? Oh, he's now different from his grandfather Stalin or Lenin. When the Germans made their way into Russia, I heard that Stalin was shitting in he was scared shitless and he escaped to the Ural or Ural Mountains or something like that. But they convinced him to come back and what did he do? Those who convinced him to come back and stood with him, he sent them to the gulags. The guy would look at a TV or a wall or anything that moves, right, on 4 legs or 2 legs or flies, and he immediately, send him to the gulags, send him to the gulags, send him to the gulags. Where do you find those, man? I mean, I looked at the literature of history and the history and the history of people and those who like him, like Stalin and Lenin and Genghis Khan and Hulagu and Timur Link and so on, they're very few and they come from a very certain place, right? Let's not talk about that now, but hey. So anyways, but now, suddenly a few days ago, and this is the main point, right, of what's going on with Putin, right? He calls for a ceasefire, right? Not just that. I mean, when you call for a ceasefire, you just surrender to the fact or accepted the fact that you lost the war, right? And you can't do anything anymore, right? Right. And now he wants to dictate terms. You want to stop the war, the one that you said you will take. I mean, even his secretaries and so on, you know, those weird looking bunch, right? They stated there on record saying that this war will not stop until they have achieved their objectives, at least in Ukraine, right? And they even talked about Poland and Sweden and Finland and so on. They're on record, right? So when he comes and says something like that, that he wants a ceasefire, right? Meaningly, he's acknowledging the status quo, that he just can't do what he wants to do. So to me, that has different, like, multifaceted analysis I can do about that here. The first one is this, and this is very important. Joby, listen to this. I think he's no longer waiting on Trump to win, right? Why? Because it's like only, what, 4 or 5 months left? So July, August, September, October, November. Okay, 5 months, right? 5.5 months left for the election. He's not even waiting on that, right? So apparently when you start talking about, and like I said, the plan was to crush Europe, right? Those Germanic, Scandinavians, and Eastern European countries between Trump and Putin, right? You know, the instructions for MAGAs here is, right? You know, pulverize those Europeans, right? Apparently, he's no longer waiting on, and then he ventured in on his own. I would say if that was the plan, like the vice plan between Trump and Putin, then he made a mistake doing what he's doing. But I think he was ready, and the schedule didn't allow for it, so he just decided to move, even though Trump wasn't, you know, it wasn't back in the didn't stay in the White House. So that's very important point, Joby. I think he gave up on Trump going back to the White House. They know, the MAGAs do know, as a matter of fact. They have, they monitor, I mean, forget those polls that they always lie about, you know, polls and so on in the media and internet and so on. They have their own sensory, their own not so declared polls, right? That's not spoken out in the public. And I think they know. That's an analysis, and it's an indicator. So that's point number one about Putin. I think he gave up on Trump already. He knew that he's going to have to carry out on his own. Point number two, even though it's like still only 5 months to the election, I think this shift in position came after he attempted to retake Kharkiv, right? Kharkiv. When that failed, he fired Shwego and all these jokers. He surrounds himself by yes men jokers, right? Just like Hitler, just like Stalin, just like Lenin, and so on and so on. The only difference between, there's no difference really, you know, the Assad and the donkey of Syria or the Ayatollahs, you know, the Ayatollahs, the monkeys, you know, that rule Iran by blood and iron fist and fire and so on, dungeons and so on. What's wrong with those folks, man? You can only survive like that. And they want to appoint themselves gods on people, right? Really, really? I mean, that's what they're thinking. Dumbasses. So I think that the other chance is that he realized even if Trump came back to the White House, that may not, if that's a colossal if, right? That may not work for him. Why? Because now, guess what? Europe stepped up to the plate, Sweden and so on, and Holland, and they began to send arms and weapons and pledged help to for Ukraine and so on, right? So even if Trump went back to the White House, Trump will have to really send the U.S. Army and Air Force and so on, and like Bush did in Iraq, right? And then evict or invade the country. You see what I'm talking about? So now he realizes. Now Trump cannot do that, right? But he realizes. Uh, 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 he realizes that when Europe, and this is the other important point, when Europe stepped up to the plate and then declared their, and especially Sweden, right? Especially Sweden, their unconditional support for Ukraine, he knew this was going to be a long war, and even if Trump came back to the White House. So you see what happens when you appease someone like Putin, you prolong and lengthen the war. If you step up to the plate, look at him. He's asking for a ceasefire already, right? And now, point number 3, asking for a ceasefire, he may know something, he knows things we don't know. Like the army may be about to collapse. What the heck? They lost like 500,000. I mean, that's conservative number. And my guesstimate is that we're talking 750,000 troops probably killed and so on in Ukraine, right? So he's expecting some kind of a collapse, right? I did say that before in one of my videos that they will eventually come to collapse, right? If it wasn't for the help from Netanyahu and Zion and so on, and MAGAs and whatnot, right? And the Gulf countries like MEPS, right? MEPS, right? And UAE and Kuwait and Oman and Qatar and Bahrain and oh man, that little corner of the world, huh? Something evil lurks in there, trust me. And that's not the one that lives in Western Arabia. Us, right? So he probably expecting something and he's trying to kind of break it off. Now that's point number 3. There are a few other points, but the point number 4 is no matter what, if you give this guy a reprieve, if you give this guy a break, what is he going to do? He's just going to reboot and come back again, right? This guy was brazen. I mean, he was so arrogant and brazen, he would break the, even in Syria when he would do like broker agreements between rebels and regime forces and so on, and himself and so on. He would come back without, unannounced, and renege on that agreement. He did it 1,000 times and just destroy and kill and maim and so on, right? That's all, right? He did that in Ukraine before. So long that regime in Russia is still there, you cannot shake their hands or trust them, right? So that's point number 4. They are going to come back. Even if Putin resigns now and then appoints somebody instead of him, like Yeltsin appointed him, and that regime in there, Europe, you will always have to be ready to fight. That's it. I mean, there's no question about that. You always have to be ready to defend yourself from that corner of the world, right? So that's point number 4. Let me take a break. Okay, now coming back here to the United States, you hear a lot of commotion about Dr. Fauci. Is it Fauci? Guy made a lot of money, huh? But why are the MAGAs making big commotion about this? I tell you what, folks, that DIVOC, DIVCO, I'm reading it backward, DIVOC, right? Huh? The virus, right? That was not real, folks. It put people in their houses, it closed companies, ran people out of business, and believe me, and I said this before, that was in preparation for the second term, right, to become tyranny, right? Because first they beat down the society, right? So you're busy, you're in your house, you have to wear a mask, and then you're busy, you're afraid that your life is in danger, so on and so forth, right? And then when while you're busy thinking about that, thinking about your finances, like your situation, your bills, and worried about the future and so on, you begin to look away from what the rulers are doing. But then that didn't work. That pirate ship sank on January 6th. Remember? Look, you guys, this is a blessing in disguise for America, right? That was a step for tyranny. Yes, sometimes a revolution comes as small as a virus. You can't even see it unless you look at it by some kind of one of those high powered microscopes, right? The electronics and whatnot, in order for you to see what's going on there. That disease, supposedly from China, was right. China was getting ready to turn the United States into one of its provinces, and so does Russia. Eurasia, believe me, if Trump comes into the White House, right, you're gonna see tens of millions of Chinese from East China, if not hundreds of millions, migrate to the United States, and they shout a lot, right? You work with them, right? Not like me. They can't do that. They have bad habits. They will own the country, right? These Anglo-Saxon thing, and Dugin, right, is on the record saying that the future or something of the sort, that Eurasia. He doesn't mean Eurasia, the stance. He means East China, all these Guangzhou, right? He's going to send him over. If Putin was able to take over Northwestern Europe, that Northwestern Europe would have been erased as a history existed in history. Not just that, eventually if they take over and becomes a Stalinist continent, they will even erase something called German from history, right? And then you're going to see tens of millions of Eastern people from Eastern China, right? Come and just basically become the continent. That's all. That's that's nothing less than a Mongol invasion, right? Mongol invasion, right? Now, I'm not talking about Mongols now, and like I said, I myself had some of that, right? Being from Syria, I have some ancestry. What we call today Turkic people, they're really the Tatar and the Turk and the Mongols, right? Right now, they're all Turk people, right? Turkic people. And I have some of that in me. But what these guys are planning on doing is planning on destroying the whole continent, right? They just basically erasing it. And, you can bet your money on that. They're on the record. I'm not making this up, right? The Mongol invasion is happening now, was going to happen, right? If Putin was not stopped by America, right? In Ukraine, you will see tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, immigrate from Eastern China into Northwestern Europe, and that's it, You walk in the street and think this is your country, and you want to resist the HAMAS of the Greys or UFOs, right? Or those from East China, they will shout at you right there and then, and you can't say shit, right? And in fact, they will not learn your German language. You will have to learn their Chinese language in order to communicate. And they may start killing you, and your police will not even do a shit. Why? Guess what? The law enforcement agencies, I can't do shit. Wake up. Oh, you poor you, Europeans. You poor you. You did one thing. Believe me, Sweden, when they pledged the billions and sent ammunition to Ukraine, right? That had influence on Putin's attitude. It's one of the reasons that he changed his mind and he wants a ceasefire. Why does he want a ceasefire? Guess what? You know this. You know this. You heard this song before, right? So there you have it. That's why they're now the commotion about this DIVOC, DIVOC, right? You know what I'm talking about. Got number 19 next to it. That number 19, by the way, is esoterical. It's the certain tree, right? The Kabbalistic tree. One at the bottom. It's the tree, right? One at the bottom, and then the 9 up, right? Those circles, right? So 9. They took it from the Quran, right? And they wove things about it. It's in the Quran. Like, it's the number of angels that guard hellfire and so on and so forth, right? Which is true. So he gave up on Trump. I think he did, right? That's why he is now looking for a break so he can regroup and then come back again. The Europe taking action and showing willingness to fight and so on. I think that also, even if Trump, even if Trump goes back to the White House and say destroys NATO and that Europe will fight. That he knows that this is going to be a hard fight to win or even achieve. Three, I think he's suffering. Like that's why he suddenly threw his pups and his poodles, like Shoigo. How do they say it? Shoigo, right? Under the bus and so on. That's how cowardly that poodle is. What, 700,000 of his own country, and how many innocent people died in Ukraine, and look what he's done in Ukraine. You think when he comes to Sweden, if he comes to Sweden and Ukraine, to Germany and Poland, he's gonna spare you the destruction and razing and changing cities into rubble? Just think about it, folks. The move between Trump and between Putin and of course the Ayatollahs, the Kharaminis, Khomeinis and so on, and Mao Zedong and Ataturks and so on, and the Mepses of the Gulf and Sisi, General Sisi of Egypt, right? They have embarked on a historic move, folks. You have no idea that how detrimental that January 6th. How detrimental it was to them. You have no idea to them. It literally stopped the hordes from moving forward. That's all. And of course, that miraculous stand of Ukrainian forces, fighting back. And, they showed some heart, man. The least thing you can expect is Ukrainians. They have no really big history in wars, and they were victims of the Holodomor and right. But the least thing you can think of, that are able to withstand and then defend Europe are the Ukrainians. You expect the Germans to be able to handle such a big task or deal with big enemies, and not Ukraine, but Ukraine now is defending all Europe. You Germans, if that guy breaks through Ukraine, and he will gather momentum and he'll come to your countries, you're going to be speaking Chinese and looking Chinese, Eastern China in no time at all. You're going to see them start. And not just that, look, they don't come to fight. They wait until the fight is over. Those white Russians are dying in the hundreds of thousands. Once that is finished and they take over, they emerge from East China and come and harvest, and then they step on you. What do you think? Look at it, folks. I would say this, Europe, regardless of NATO, Northwestern Europe, and France too, right? I think they're going to do France the same thing, right? And Italy, maybe, I don't know. If those Chinese, East China comes in the hundreds of millions, they're going to occupy the entire continent. That's it, right? And Trump eventually, after he turns the United States into a totalitarianism, right? Like Lenin and Stalin, you're going to see them come here in the millions, tens of millions, in Canada as well, and in the hundreds of millions. It may not be on, one-day job, but gradual, right? And they will start owning your farms and start owning your blah blah, and you're going to be speaking Chinese in no time at all. But that's what it is, folks. If you German, whoever you are, value your future and your history and your past and your freedom and your livelihood. Not that you guys live a perfect life. Oh no. There are many things that could be fixed in that part of the world. But believe me, what's coming is you for you. You poor you don't know what's coming your way. Germans, Germanics, not just Germans. And and Scans and English and Scots and Irish and so on. Oh, you better make sure that Mongol or Genghis Khan called Putin, make sure he doesn't come to your country, because if he does, well, you poor you, right? So that's that. And again, Putin is asking for a ceasefire not because he means to stick by it or with it. His history is well known by Ukraine, by Georgia, by other countries, right? And so on. And look, don't be conservative and reserved in dealing with him. He comes at you with all he's got, right? He attacked the Ukraine from Belarus when things started, right? Go attack him from elsewhere, folks. Arm those Chechen rebels, make it look like an Afghanistan for him. Remember that historical lesson from Afghanistan? Arm Georgians, man. I mean, just tear the guy down. That's all you need to do. I mean, it's already a war. What is it you're waiting on? Being reserved now is a problem for you. It's a problem for everybody. That's delaying you, and that may actually simply stop you in the future sense. You need to get him busy from elsewhere. He committed a pincer movement on you in Kharkiv. Commit a pincer on him too in Chechnya, in Georgia, and in Caucasus, and here and there. What are you waiting on? What are you waiting on? So that's the COVID. So the commotion about COVID now is to try to prove to you that COVID is real. COVID was a step toward tyranny. That's all. That's all. I mean, Divok. That's it. And notice how it's just conveniently just all the measures that were taken against it conveniently just dropped, and that's it. Right? Just disappeared. They still talk about it only to say that it is real, right? It was real, but no, that was a path to tyranny. And that's that, right? What is the bump stock action? The bump stock action, the Supreme Court just turned it down. The Supreme Court is are protectors of Trump. There's nothing else, right? So the DVAC story is to say that DVAC is real, COVID is real. It's not. What the Supreme Court is overturning a bump stock action to say they're not for Trump. Bullshit, man. This is only deception. Cuba supports Trump. Some people say that the ship came to Cuba to evacuate Trump if he gets arrested or something of the sort. Possibly, right? But no, I think it's a sign of desperation on behalf of Stalin. And I'll explain a few other points, right? So they talk about rigged election, they talk about rigged, Trump and MAGAs, they talk about rigged elections, they talk about rigged justice system, they talk about blah, blah. I say the only rigged thing is that it's very obvious that this humongous machine is rigging everything to make sure Trump doesn't go to jail, and then they will try to rig the election system to put him back into the White House. You can count on that. So Biden, Joby, you need to send your people to monitor those places, right? Monitor elections and machines and right? All the wars that you see, all the conflicts in the Middle East are actually to support Trump against or pitch for Trump, But so far, Joe Biden have escaped that attack unscathed. Let's put it this way. He knows how to handle it, right? Joby, go to Europe, man. Make your points to white America. You're European. You got I don't know about all of you, but you got Irish heritage in you. I assure you, Trump is totally East, where Putin is heritage and everything else. What happens when you appease Putin? You know, you learned your lesson by now. You stand up to him, you're going to put him down in his box, right? He's going to go back into his box of matches. You appease him, you embolden him. You appease China, you embolden China, or the Chinese regime for that matter. You appease Assad, you're going to have to deal with a butcher and a terrorist. You appease the Ayatollahs, they're going to do the same thing to you. These guys don't bring good things to the world, folks. You know, the ones I mentioned, and there are plenty of them in South America and here and there. Asia, and there are quite a few of those, the Putins and the Assads and the Ayatollahs and the Pinochets and all, and the, you name it, right? These animals don't bring good things to the world, folks. These animals bring misery, brings torment. They bring misery and torment and deception and dissolution of humanity to the world. That's all they do, folks. You may think this is a powerful statement, but maybe you doubt its authenticity. Oh, look again, I'm bringing this from history. In the last century alone, you folks have good history of what's happened under communism and, in Asia and South America and the Middle East and so on. Oh, why does that, or even in Europe, you know, the two sister movement, Nazism and communism, crushing Europe like a vice, right? These guys don't bring good things to the world, folks. These guys are coming here like they're useless and they want to appoint themselves gods on you, and that's it. And meantime, you know, Animal Farm, you know, like they're walking behind those big armies, those vast armies and fights and bloodletting and so on, and they're hiding, right? And they're carrying their Animal Farm with them, you know, and hairy lizards and and once they take over, you know, it's Animal Farm, it's Brave New World, it's 1984, it's that's their purpose in life. That's all. Well, my friends, have a nice day. I ranted so much today, and, but hey, reality is here. And notice Europe, once you stood up and decided to help Ukraine and fight and so on, regardless of Trump and so on, Putin took heed of that, and he knew this wasn't going to be an easy fight, even if Trump comes back to the White House. Big if, right? Americans, believe me, you can hate Biden all you want. He's your only choice now. He's your only choice. Good day, my friends. Have a nice day.